What lies hidden between the pages of the great chronicles? What sounds fill the world when the heroes fall silent? We will tell you the stories that never made it into the annals, about the quiet, everyday life in Rivendell, the long nights on the road for the ring bearers, and even what happens in the grim barracks of Isengard after the lights go out. Write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. And now, get comfortable, dim the lights, and just listen. When you think of the most tranquil, most peaceful places imaginable, what first comes to mind? Perhaps it's the whisper of a forest, the distant roar of the ocean, or the quiet gurgle of a stream. But there's one place many dream of, a place where nature and magic merge into something truly otherworldly. Rivendell, or, as the elves call it, Imladris, a valley hidden from the hustle and turmoil of the outside world, a true oasis of peace and ancient wisdom. And today, I invite you on an unusual journey, a quiet stroll across its graceful bridges, following the light, almost imperceptible footsteps of one of its eternal inhabitants. This won't be a tale of battles or great deeds, no. This will be an ode to sounds, sensations, fleeting moments of absolute harmony that can be found if you only slow down and listen. For the true beauty of Rivendell lies not only in its architecture or majestic waterfalls, but also in that ubiquitous, living silence, filled with 1,000 subtle whispers. Imagine, early morning, the first golden ray of sun, piercing through the dense foliage of ancient trees, touching dew-kissed stones. The air is fresh and clean, imbued with the scent of damp earth, pine needles, and delicate elven flowers that seem to bloom only here. The valley is still asleep, or rather, just beginning to awaken to a new day, but it's already filling with its unique sounds. Our companion, an elf whose name remains unknown, glides along the stone pathways with a grace unique to his people. His steps are almost silent, light, like the touch of the wind. Each step is an imprint of the ancientness, wisdom, and tranquility he carries within him. His eyes, deep and contemplative, survey the surrounding world, not just with attention, but with a profound understanding of its essence. He is in no hurry. In Imladris, time flows differently. It doesn't press, it doesn't rush, allowing each moment to unfold completely. We follow him, treading a path that leads us to the first of many bridges. The stone underfoot is smoothly polished by centuries, yet not slippery. Beneath our soles, there's a light, barely audible rustle of fine gravel, almost a song accompanying our steps. Here, far from the world's clamor, even the quietest sound gains special significance, becoming part of the overall symphony. To our left, and directly ahead, through the dense foliage, a deep, incessant rumble is already audible. This is Bruinen, a swift, ancient river that encircles and protects Rivendell, serving as its natural boundary and a source of constant soothing sound. Its waters, pure and cold, rush forward, carrying echoes of mountains and the memory of ages. And so, we approach the first of the bridges. It is not high, but rather graceful, carved from light-colored stone, covered with moss in places where direct sunlight rarely falls. Its railings are adorned with delicate, almost invisible elven patterns that seem to intertwine with the living vines wrapped around them. We cross it. The sound of the river here grows louder, enveloping, filling all space. It's not just the noise of water. It's its voice, the voice of antiquity, of ceaseless movement, of eternity. If you listen closely, you can discern many nuances. A deep hum in the distance, a resonant gurgle closer to the bank, the soft rustle of foam breaking against the shore stones. Sometimes, when the wind carries it stronger, it seems as if the valley itself breathes in time with this roar. Dragonflies flit above the water, their wings vibrating almost silently, adding subtle notes to this natural melody. The elf stops in the middle of the bridge, his gaze fixed downward on the swiftly rushing currents. He doesn't just look, he contemplates, allowing the river's energy to flow through him, cleansing and filling his mind. The water gleams under the first rays of sun, reflecting the sky and the green banks, creating a living, constantly changing picture. We continue our path, delving deeper into the very heart of Imladris. The path rises slightly, leading us through areas where trees stand particularly dense, forming a green canopy overhead. Here, the sounds of the river are somewhat muffled, giving way to other, no less beautiful noises. The rustle of leaves, that is what now dominates. It varies, a soft whisper when a gentle breeze sweeps through the treetops, causing the canopies to sway in a slow dance. A more distinct crunch of dry leaves underfoot if the path suddenly becomes covered with fallen foliage, and the soft, almost tender rustle of fresh leaves, swaying with the gentle breath of morning. Sometimes, you can hear a single leaf detach from a branch and silently glide downwards, its fall barely disturbing the stillness, only adding an ephemeral touch to the overall soundscape. Beneath this green dome, the air feels even cooler, and light filters through the foliage in hundreds of golden spots, playing on moss and stones. The elf continues to move, his steps remaining almost inaudible, but now they seem even more harmonious with the surrounding world. Each step of his is not just movement, it is part of the valley's breath, part of its eternal, unhurried rhythm. Ahead, another bridge appeared, quite unlike the previous one. This one is higher, more arched, spanning a narrow but deep canyon, at the bottom of which also runs one of Bruinen's offshoots, but now not so swiftly, more like a gentle gurgle. The bridge seems carved from solid rock, yet its form is so graceful that it resembles a natural formation more than a man-made creation. From it, a breathtaking view opens up to the surrounding mountains, their peaks still somewhat shrouded in morning mist, lending them mystery and majesty. Standing on this bridge, you can feel a gentle breeze carrying the freshness of mountain peaks and the pure scents of pine needles. Here, the sound of water changes. It becomes more chamber-like, intimate. It's not the powerful roar of the main river, but rather a melodious gurgle, reminiscent of a calm conversation. You can hear individual drops falling from stones, creating tiny but distinct splashes, or how slight, barely perceptible eddies swirl leaves caught in the current, carrying them further away. The elf pauses, his gaze sweeping over the distant peaks, then descending to the gurgling water. He isn't looking for anything specific. He simply exists in this moment, allowing it to fill him completely. This isn't passive observation. It's a deep, active engagement with the world. As morning gains strength, the valley begins to fill with new sounds. Somewhere high in the tree canopies, bird calls resound. These aren't noisy city sparrows, but forest singers whose melodies are pure, complex, and filled with inexpressible joy. Each note seems carefully considered, as if it's not just a song, but a message passed down through the ages. Then, a little later, a distant but constant sound of a waterfall reaches us. It is always present in Rivendell, invisible from many vantage points, yet always palpable, a reminder of nature's grandeur and power. Its rumble blends with the river's sound, creating a multi-layered soundscape. Occasionally, a bumblebee flies past, its buzz low and industrious, reminding us of the bustling, though hidden, life around. Beneath the elf's feet, on more open sections of the path, the stones emit a light, almost inaudible scuff, not irritating, but a natural sound that adds realism to this unreal scene. The valley breathes, lives, and every breath it takes is filled with music. We emerge onto a small platform that offers a panoramic view of Rivendell's main bridge, the one leading to the last homely house. It is majestic, yet harmonious, as if it grew out of the rock itself rather than being built. Its arches are gracefully curved, and through them you can see the sun flooding the valley with its light, painting it in golden and green hues. On the river water, beneath the bridge, sunlit reflections play, dancing and shifting every second. They create the illusion of a living, shimmering tapestry that moves with the current. You can gaze upon this mesmerizing spectacle for a long time, and it seems as if time stands still, yielding to pure beauty. The echo of one's own thought, if it even arises, seems out of place in this sanctuary of peace. Here, every detail, every stone, every tree is part of a single, endless story unfolding before us. The elf stands motionless, his silhouette blending with the landscape, becoming an integral part of it. He is not merely an observer. He is the guardian of this moment, of this harmony. His presence only enhances the feeling of eternal peace and profound understanding of the world. These bridges of Rivendell are not just structures for crossing waters. They are symbols of connection between worlds, between past and present, between nature and creation. Each of them has its own story, its own energy, its own unique sound. When we cross them, we don't just change our position in space. We cross through something greater. They are portals to different states of mind, each offering its unique perspective on the grandeur of Imladris. Standing on these stone arches, surrounded by the might of Bruinen, or the quiet whisper of forest streams, you feel part of something much larger than yourself. It's a feeling of humility and awe simultaneously. You hear the water gently lapping against the stone supports, creating a soft, repetitive rhythm, the pulse of the valley. Sometimes, in the lull between gusts of wind, you can catch a delicate, almost otherworldly chime. It seems like elven bells singing, hidden somewhere high up. Or perhaps it's just the interplay of light and sound creating such a wonderful illusion. But even if it's an illusion, it's beautiful and fits organically into the overall ensemble. Continuing to follow our silent guide, we begin to understand that Rivendell's true beauty lies not only in the abundance of sounds, but also in their unique interaction with silence. Here, silence is not an absence of sound. It is the canvas upon which all these natural melodies are painted. It is a deep, rich silence, full of anticipation and tranquility. It allows every rustle, every gurgle, every bird's song to resonate fully, without drowning each other out. It is a silence that speaks of antiquity, of centuries that have passed, leaving their imprint on every stone, on every tree branch. The elf utters no word, but his presence speaks more than any words. He is the embodiment of this silence, of this profound understanding and respect for the surrounding world. We walk on, and beneath our feet, we once again feel the light, almost imperceptible rustle of small pebbles, each of which seems to echo our thoughts, if thoughts could make a sound. The air here is consistently fresh, even as the sun rises higher, thanks to the cool breath of the river and the shade from ancient trees. This creates ideal conditions for reflection, for simply being and feeling. We cross yet another bridge, the smallest of them all, almost hidden amidst dense thickets. It leads to a secluded clearing where the grass seems especially lush and the flowers exceptionally vibrant. Here, away from the main paths, the sounds of the river become very soft, almost lulling. One hears only a delicate, gentle gurgle, as if the river whispers its ancient secrets solely to us. Butterflies flit above the clearing, their wings utterly silent, but their presence adds a light, airy dimension to this landscape. Occasionally, one might catch a distant splash of a fish in the river, a reminder of the vibrant, hidden life beneath the water's surface. Here, amidst this tranquility, you realize how fragile and precious each moment is. Time flows slowly here, allowing you to fully immerse yourself in the experience. Each inhale feels deeper, each exhale a release. The elf stops at the edge of the clearing, his gaze fixed on the waterfall, now much clearer to see, its white veil streaming downwards, breaking against the rocks with a constant yet not overwhelming roar. This waterfall, an eternal guardian and an eternal source of inspiration for the valley's inhabitants. Its sound is the pulse of Rivendell, a constant reminder of nature's power and beauty. Our elven guide seems to completely merge with this environment. His gait, his demeanor, everything is imbued with harmony with nature. He doesn't just walk across the bridges, he feels them. He feels the coolness of the stone beneath his feet, senses the slight vibration caused by the river's current. His hair, like silk, barely sways in the gentle breeze that carries the scents of pines and damp moss. In his eyes, there is no shadow of worry, only profound peace and wisdom accumulated over centuries. He breathes in the pure air of Rivendell, air that seems to cleanse not only the lungs, but the very soul. Imagine this sensation. You are completely enveloped by this perfect beauty, where every sound, every gust of wind, every ray of light serves a single purpose: to create an ideal sanctuary. There is no room for hustle, for haste, only an endless flow of the moment, which stretches and allows you to absorb every detail. The valley seems to embrace you, enveloping you in its soft, green cloak, while the rivers and waterfalls sing their eternal lullaby, carrying away all worries. This is a place where you can find yourself if you only stop searching and just allow yourself to be. As we conclude our stroll, rounding the last graceful curves of the bridges, we find ourselves once again closer to the main part of Rivendell, where the sound of the Bruinen River once again becomes dominant. But now it is perceived differently. It's not just noise, it's the underlying chord of this entire symphony of peace. It is constant, reliable, soothing. It reminds us that although the world around us may change, some things remain constant, eternal. The art of the elves is evident not only in the stone-carved bridges, but also in how they are integrated into the landscape, how they complement nature, not disrupting it, but enhancing its beauty. Every bridge, every path here, is not merely a functional object. It is a work of art created with deep respect for the land and its spirit. In Rivendell, one could spend hours, days, or perhaps even centuries, and each time find something new, something that touches the soul. Here, even the most mundane sound becomes part of something magical. This is a place where you can truly understand what it means to live in harmony with the world, where every rustle of leaves is the whisper of ancient stories. Every gurgle of water is a song of eternity, and every step on stone is the imprint of millennia. And so, our quiet stroll comes to an end. We stand on the last bridge, which leads back to the central halls, and turn back to gaze once more upon the path we've traveled. The valley is still enveloped in tranquility, but now we hear it differently, deeper, more fully. The sounds that were once just background noise have now come alive and filled with meaning. The ubiquitous sound of the Bruinen River, that incessant roar, now seems not just a water current, but the living breath of Imladris. The rustle of leaves, so varied in its nuances, reveals to us the full complexity and richness of forest life. The light steps on stone that accompanied us, reminding us of our own presence in this sacred place, now echo like eternity. Rivendell is not just a beautiful place, it is a state of mind. It's a reminder that even in the most turbulent world, there are corners of absolute serenity, if only we learn to listen for them. And the most important thing this quiet walk taught us is the value of the moment, the value of contemplation, the value of sounds we so often miss in our daily rush. For sometimes, to find the deepest truths, you just need to slow down, close your eyes, and listen. I hope this short journey into the heart of Rivendell, filled with sounds and reflections, offered you a few moments of peace and inspiration. Perhaps it prompted you to look at the world around you anew and hear the sounds that often go unnoticed, or at least to ponder how multifaceted the world's beauty is, if only we give ourselves time to perceive it. For sometimes, to find true harmony, it's enough to simply slow down, open your senses, and let the world speak to you. If you enjoyed this immersion into the atmosphere of Imladris and wish to continue such meditative journeys with us, discovering new amazing places and diving into their unique soundscapes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We would be delighted to have you among our companions on future adventures. Please like this video if this walk resonated with your heart, and of course, share in the comments which sounds of nature bring you the most peace and where you would like to journey next. Your opinion is very important to us. Until next time, in amazing worlds where every rustle, every gurgle, and every step tells its own story. Have you ever wondered what happens when chaos reigns around you? When the familiar world crumbles and hope seems almost gone? We often think of heroism as something grand. Great battles, fateful decisions, brilliant feats lit by glory. But sometimes, the most important things happen in deep silence, in moments when no one is watching, in tiny, seemingly insignificant, yet incredibly meaningful actions that hold the very fabric of our existence together, keeping it from complete collapse. Today, we'll delve into a story that perfectly illustrates this profound idea, transporting us to a world where darkness deepens by the minute and faith in salvation fades before our eyes, leaving only a faintly glowing ember of hope. Imagine a dim, cramped hideout, barely concealed somewhere deep within the time-worn rocks of Mordor, in the very heart of enemy-cursed territory. Perhaps it's just a small, unremarkable cave gnawed out of the stone by nature, or simply a wide grotto, skillfully hidden from curious, and most importantly, from the malicious, sniffing eyes of the omnipresent enemy, whose shadows dart across this scorched land. Inside, a faint, flickering light barely gleams, appearing so fragile in this impenetrable gloom. Maybe it's a tiny campfire, barely smoldering, so its almost imperceptible smoke doesn't rise to the heavy, leaden sky and give away their presence to those hunting them. Or perhaps it's just meager light filtering in from outside, colored by dawn or dusk, which here, in these cursed, evil-infused lands, always seem darker, thicker, and more sinister than anywhere else. The air in the hideout is thick with the heavy smell of damp earth, pervasive cold moisture, and a faint yet unsettling, poignant tang of something wild, untamed, something that breathes and waits in the impenetrable, primal darkness, ready to devour them at any moment. On a rough, worn blanket, directly on the cold, stony floor, a man sleeps restlessly. This is Frodo Baggins, the ring-bearer. His breathing is steady, but so heavy. It betrays not just weariness, but deep, all-consuming exhaustion, caused not only by the physical demands of long days on an arduous journey, but also by constant, unbearable mental strain, and most of all, the horror that relentlessly pursues him. He is at the very limit of his physical and mental strength, his will barely holding, and sleep is his only medicine, his only chance to briefly forget the unbearable, deadly burden of the One Ring, which rests on his fragile shoulders and day after day squeezes his heart with an invisible yet merciless hand. And next to Frodo, huddled like a small but resilient sparrow, yet fully, absolutely ready for any turn of events, sits another. He doesn't sleep because his duty is above all else. He has no time for sleep when his friend, his master, is suffering so unbearably, when he is so close to his ultimate goal, but also to complete exhaustion. His gaze is focused, like a predator searching for prey, his every movement precise and deliberate, imbued with the deepest care, boundless loyalty, and inexpressible responsibility. This man is Samwise Gamgee, Gardener of the Shire, or simply Sam. He is that quiet, unsung hero, without whom, perhaps, no great journey in the history of this world would have succeeded, and certainly not this one. His name may never be loudly proclaimed in the annals recorded for posterity, like the name of the ring-bearer or great kings, but his contribution to this saving journey is absolutely invaluable. He is its very foundation, its unshakable base. He is a loyal guardian, an unwavering protector, tireless, and at this moment, a meticulous auditor of their meager, dwindling supplies remaining on this hopeless path. Sam sorts through the provisions. He doesn't just look at them, doesn't just do a quick check, but carefully handles each item with deep contemplation, every crumb, every inch, as if they are more precious than gold. This isn't just a mundane inventory. It's a profound, almost sacred act of preserving order within himself, within his soul, in a world that seems to be striving for complete, all-consuming chaos, destroying everything in its path, grinding all hope to dust. For Sam, this becomes a kind of meditation, taking physical form in the very heart of despair, a way to stay afloat when a fierce, relentless storm rages around them, threatening to swallow them both. First, Sam turns to the elven cloaks, their wondrous, magical gifts from distant, beautiful Lothlorien. Remember, these aren't just ordinary pieces of fabric, not just everyday gear you can buy in a market. These are amazing garments, woven with ancient, powerful elven magic, capable of blending with their surroundings, granting their wearers incredible, almost mystical invisibility and reliable protection from prying eyes, whether orcs or Nazgul. He carefully unfolds each cloak, running the thin but strong fabric through his fingers, feeling its coolness and smoothness, its special texture. Sam feels the slight roughness of the earth these cloaks touch during their long wanderings, the faint touch of dust, the smells of the forest, the dampness of rain, and even something elusive, barely discernible, reminiscent of the wise Lady Galadriel and the beautiful, ancient elves who wove them with such care and love, imbuing them with a part of their power. He meticulously, painstakingly checks every seam, every thread, searching for snags, tears, the slightest damage that could compromise the integrity of the magic. Are there traces of sharp branches or treacherous rocks they had to push through, risking their lives? Perhaps thorns or spikes left their marks, tearing through the protective layer. Every tear, every even tiny hole, it's not just a fabric defect, it's a potential, deadly threat, a breach in their defense that could cost Frodo and Sam their lives if they are discovered by an enemy whose eyes are so sharp. He carefully, tenderly, almost reverently folds them, trying to restore them to their original perfect shape, the one they had when they first received them as gifts in the Golden Wood, where peace and beauty reigned. Each time Sam folds a cloak, he's as if folding hope itself, carefully, tenderly placing it in the pack so it won't crease, tear, or disappear under the pressure of circumstances and the surrounding horror. This isn't just clothing. It's their invisible shield, their disguise in this dangerous, deadly land. And this shield must be in perfect condition for their continued journey. Their chances of reaching their goal and fulfilling their mission may depend on it. Then, after checking the cloaks, comes the turn of their most precious, most valuable of all their meager supplies, lembas. This is elven bread, miraculous food given to them by the elves, nourishing and sustaining strength even in the hardest, most hopeless trials, when the human or hobbit body refuses to obey, and the spirit is ready to break from exhaustion and hunger. There isn't much of it, and Sam painfully, with a sharp sense of anxiety, realizes that with each passing day, there is less and less of it, while the path ahead to Mount Doom is longer and more dangerous, more unpredictable. He carefully takes out the leaf-wrapped wafers, so fragile and so vital. His fingers move slowly, almost reverently, with a deep respect for this sacred life-saving food, every piece of which is priceless. Sam doesn't just count them, doesn't just tally the quantity. He weighs each wafer in his palm, as if trying to understand how much life, how much endurance, how much energy is still left in it, how many steps, how many moments of wakefulness it can provide for him and Frodo, who grows weaker with each passing day. 1, 2, 3. A voice in his head whispers numbers, and each one echoes with a sharp, burning pain in his chest, as if from a blow, because the quantity is too small, critically, catastrophically small for such a long journey. It melts away before his eyes, like sand through his fingers, flowing away irrevocably, foreshadowing inevitable hunger. Sam knows that every crumb of lembas is not only food that can momentarily quell hunger, but also a powerful symbol of hope, a promise that the journey is not yet over, that there is still strength for a final, decisive push, for a last attempt. He thinks of Frodo, of his exhausted, suffering face, of his torment from the ring, of how this wafer will crumble in his hands as he breaks off a piece, of how it will replenish his strength, giving him a little more time, a little more hope, a little more life. And he thinks of himself, of his strength, of his resilience, of the fact that he must be strong for Frodo. He thinks of how they will divide it, trying to make it last for as many days as possible, for as many miles as possible across this hostile, scorched, lifeless land of Mordor, where there is not a single blade of grass. This isn't just food, it's their future, their ability to reach the end, compressed into a small but surprisingly nourishing piece, granting not only physical energy, but also an unyielding spirit they so desperately try to preserve. Sam carefully rearranges the lembas, choosing the driest and safest place in the pack, away from any moisture and foreign odors, as if guarding the very breath of life, their most valuable resource, their only chance to survive. After the lembas, it's the rope's turn, their indispensable companion in the mountains. It seems such a simple, everyday thing, which many might underestimate. But in wild, uncharted territory, in high mountains, on steep cliffs, in unfamiliar, treacherous lands, a rope can be a true salvation, an improvised bridge across an abyss, a convenient ladder, a true connecting thread between life and death, their only chance. It can help them descend a steep, dangerous cliff where any misstep would be their last, or ascend an impassable rock face that blocked their path. Sam carefully unwinds it, inch by inch, his fingers habitually and confidently gliding over the rough but reliable fibers, feeling every curve. His watchful gaze scans its entire length, searching for the slightest wear, weak spots, knots that could loosen under strain at the most crucial moment. Torn fibers, frayed sections from rubbing against rock or sharp edges. Any, even the slightest, seemingly insignificant damage could be fatal for their journey, leading to both their deaths, cutting short their path. He feels it, testing its strength, as if talking to it, ensuring its absolute reliability, its readiness to serve them faithfully to the very end. Then Sam, just as methodically, with the familiar dexterity honed by years of work, begins to coil it back. Not just haphazardly, not carelessly tossing it into the pack, but meticulously, coil by coil, creating a strong, compact bundle that will fit easily and not cause problems. Such a bundle won't unravel at the most inopportune moment, when every second counts. It will be easy to retrieve and use when Frodo needs his help, when they need to act quickly and decisively, without losing a minute. In this rope lies their entire connection to the surrounding world, their entire ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and deep, bottomless abysses that they encounter on their terrible path. It is their support, their tool for survival in the harshest and most hopeless conditions. And Sam must be absolutely 100% certain of every inch of it, because this rope has saved their lives more than once, pulling them out of the most desperate situations, and may save them again before they reach their goal. Once the main, most critically important items are checked, Sam, with no less care, turns to the backpacks, his own, and of course, Frodo's. These small, battered, well-worn satchels have become more than just containers for their meager belongings. They are a true extension of themselves, holding the memory of every day past, every danger they faced, every glimmer of hope they managed to find in this darkness. He carefully opens them, taking out absolutely everything inside. Everything that remains after so many days of wandering and hardship. A few flints for making fire, a small but sharp knife, their only means of defense, an empty flask that needs to be refilled at the first opportunity, as soon as they find even a drop of water, a couple of old, long-worn rags that were once ordinary handkerchiefs, but now serve for anything, bandages, cleaning, protection. Sam carefully sorts through every trifle, every crumb of their humble existence, every item that might prove useful or vital. He checks to see if anything valuable has fallen out, if anything was lost along the way when they desperately ran or hid from enemies. Perhaps there's something they can use, something forgotten. But now, in conditions of complete hopelessness and despair, it might become their salvation, their only chance for survival, their last hope. This isn't just a mundane accounting of things for Sam. It's something much, much more than just an inventory. It's a deep, almost therapeutic process of creating order within himself, in his soul, when complete chaos reigns around him, when everything seems hopeless, and there seems to be no way out, and the very nature of their journey leads them to their doom. These small, methodical actions, requiring concentration, attention, and complete immersion, become his unshakable anchor in the raging, boundless sea of despair that threatens to swallow them. They allow him to feel not just a victim of circumstances, abandoned to fate in this hostile world, but one who controls at least something, who is capable of influencing his own destiny, even if that something seems so insignificant against the backdrop of global catastrophe and the forces opposing them. Even if this control is limited to what fits into their battered, well-worn backpacks, it is already a huge, invaluable victory over chaos. This is his personal, proven way to preserve his sanity, not to succumb to the all-consuming despair that creeps so close to Frodo, exhausted by the burden of the ring, which is destroying him from within. Every neatly folded elven cloak, every carefully counted lembas wafer, every checked thread of rope, these are tiny but tangible victories for Sam over disorder, over paralyzing fear, over the terrifying, deadly unknown that awaits them. This is his personal war, fought not with a sword in hand, nor on a battlefield, but with hope in his heart and order in his pack, preserving their chance for salvation. This task gives Sam not only practical knowledge about the actual state of supplies, which is extremely important in itself, but also a deep, surprising inner peace, so necessary in this chaotic, hostile world of Mordor. In these precious moments, when he is engaged in this important work, Sam doesn't think about the ultimate goal of their journey, about Mount Doom, which is so terrifying to contemplate and seems unreachable. He doesn't think about the terrible, gruesome threats that lie in wait for them around every corner, in every shadow, behind every rock. He is completely, utterly focused on the here and now, on the tactile sensation of things, on the sound of their rustling, on the smell of earth and sturdy fabric. This is his small, yet so cozy, ordered universe, which he can control, which he can bring to order, despite the horrors happening around him, despite the proximity of Mordor, permeated with evil and death, breathing down their necks. And so, when everything is checked, recounted, and neatly put in its place, as if each item has found its purpose, Sam leans back, feeling a slight but pleasant sense of accomplishment, as if he has just won a small but important battle. Perhaps he takes out a tiny, almost invisible piece of lembas, just for himself, the one not included in the general count, the one he saved for the very last resort, for when he had no strength left at all, knowing that Frodo, in his incredible selflessness and willingness to sacrifice himself, would not have taken it either. He breaks off a piece, slowly, with enjoyment, almost reverently, feeling the crumb dissolve on his tongue, giving its meager but vital strength for survival, filling him with a small but important surge of energy. In this precious moment, with Frodo sleeping peacefully, With the world around them plunged into twilight and frightening silence, Sam feels more than just a servant or companion. He feels like a true, unwavering guardian, the last bastion of hope for their mission, the guardian of their hopes, their survival, their shared, fragile future, which is so uncertain and hanging by a thread. He is the one who tirelessly ensures that their fragile life, the life of the ring-bearer, continues no matter what, despite all obstacles, pain, and despair they experience. Just think, in our own lives, we often face similar situations that may not appear as dramatic as a journey through Mordor, but are essentially very much alike. Not necessarily in dim, rocky hideouts, far from home, but in moments of personal crisis, when everything seems to go wrong, when the ground gives way beneath our feet, and the future becomes hazy, frightening, and completely unpredictable. It is then that seemingly insignificant, mundane actions, organizing our thoughts, writing them down so they don't scatter, making a list of tasks, even the smallest ones, tidying our desk, or simply dusting to create a sense of cleanliness and control in our surroundings, can become that very act of control that restores our sense of stability and helps us not go crazy from anxiety, disorder, and uncertainty. This is our own quiet accounting, our personal sorting of supplies, our individual way to preserve ourselves and our sanity in conditions of complete uncertainty when the outside world threatens to completely and utterly consume us. Such actions not only provide practical benefit, helping us organize and solve pressing, urgent problems, they restore our emotional balance, our inner core, which is so easily broken in the hardest times, when it feels like there's no strength to move on. They allow us to tell ourselves, I control this. I can do this. I will cope no matter what. I will find the strength within me. It's not just about the things we sort through. It's about a state of mind, about mental resilience that allows us to stand firm in the face of any adversity. It's about finding calm amidst a raging storm, finding a ray of light in impenetrable darkness, when it seems the whole world has turned against you and there is absolutely no salvation. This is the Sam who lives inside each of us, that inner strength that keeps us from giving up. Sam looks at the sleeping Frodo, at his tired but so dear face. The corners of his lips lift slightly in a barely perceptible, but so genuine, tender smile. Perhaps he smiles not because everything is well, for the end of the journey is still far off, and horrors lie ahead, but because they are alive, because they have supplies, which, though meager, though dwindling, are still there. A crumb of lembas, a bit of rope, because they have each other. And that, perhaps, is the most important thing. Their most precious treasure, their only support. And because Sam has done absolutely everything he could, and even more than expected of him, to prepare for the next day, for the next step, for the next trial that dawn will surely bring. He doesn't wait for a miracle, for they are already on their way. And miracles, he realizes, may not exist in this cursed place. He creates that miracle himself, bit by bit, meter by meter, lembas wafer by lembas wafer, through every careful action, step by step, bringing order into chaos. After all, what is true hope? It's not just blind faith in a better outcome, not an abstract, ephemeral concept, not an illusion. It is an active process. It is constant, tireless forward movement, no matter what, despite all the pain and despair that surrounds you. These are the actions we take every day to bring about that better future, to make it possible, to turn a dream into a reality that will save them. It is the ability to see in the tiny remnants of resources not only their scarcity, their limitations, but also their enormous saving potential, their hidden strength. It is the ability to value every elven cloak for its protection, every lembas wafer for its sustenance, every thread of rope for its reliability, understanding that in this lies their path, their life, their future, which hangs by a thread. It is that very faith in oneself and in one's companion that keeps them from giving up, that propels them forward, even when there's no strength left. And when everything is finished, when the last item has found its place, Sam carefully, with the deepest respect and tenderness, with such care that he feels only for Frodo, places the backpacks next to the sleeping ring-bearer, as if guarding their sleep, guarding their future, which depends on every step they take. He himself relaxes a little, finally allowing himself to feel the fatigue that has settled on him like a heavy but familiar burden, for he is not used to relaxing. He closes his eyes, but sleep does not yet come. Too many thoughts, too many worries, too much responsibility rests upon him. Sam simply listens to the silence, feels the cold rock behind him, and slowly breathes in the smell of earth, mixed with the scent of sulfur and danger that hangs in the air of Mordor. Tomorrow will be a new day, new challenges, new horizons to overcome, new miles on the path to Mount Doom, to the inevitable, yet terrifying finale of their mission. But tonight, here, in this dim hideout, everything is in order. Supplies are accounted for. Hope is preserved, no matter what. And that is enough to move forward, to find the strength to rise at dawn and continue the journey. It is in such seemingly unheroic moments, in ordinary, but so important, so profound actions, that true, unshakable strength of spirit is born, capable of changing not only the fate of two hobbits, but of the entire world. In quiet accounting, in methodical order, in preserving hope in the face of any adversity, the most terrible dangers. This is a lesson relevant to each of us in any life circumstance when the world seems to be crumbling and you feel alone with your problems, left without help. This is the wisdom that allows us not just to survive, but to live no matter what, finding within ourselves the strength for a new step, for a new struggle, for a new day full of hope. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content, and be sure to share in the comments what quiet acts of heroism you perform in your own life to maintain order and hope amidst the chaos. We'd love to hear your stories and support each other in this challenging but crucial endeavor. Ever wondered what truly separates a master craftsman from someone just winging it? For an orc, for instance, it's not about shiny trophies or pretty trinkets. No, it's about the brutal, visceral reality of combat, about the whistle that steel makes as it tears through flesh, about an axe so ready it practically breathes destruction. It's not just about the raw, primal mastery of a tool, but about how fanatically, how almost obsessively you care for it. And honestly, that goes for any weapon, especially if it's more than just a hunk of iron. If it's your loyal gut ripper, your silent accomplice in every, even the vilest deed. Because steel, my friends, is more than just a processed scrap. It's a primal extension of your limb, your very bone shield in the inferno of battle. And sometimes, it's the only language you truly understand. And like any apex predator, it demands eternal vigilance, fierce attachment, and perhaps most crucially, operational cleanliness. A neglected axe isn't just bad luck, it's a death sentence. A dull blade or a loose handle. That's your one-way ticket to the common pit. Deep within an unassuming, yet surprisingly functional cave. A place where the humid air hung heavy on the stone walls, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil mixed with the acrid tang of soot and the phantom echoes of ancient battles. He sat. This wasn't just any warrior. He was the living embodiment of immutable, bloody traditions, a primal force of unyielding, stubborn obstinacy. His massive, scarred hands, looking for all the world like the gnarled roots of an ancient, wounded oak, weathered by time and countless skirmishes, moved with a practiced, methodical grace. He was preparing for a grim ritual. Before him, on a roughly hewn table made from thick, unpolished planks that glistened with the age of old grease and grime, lay his true treasures. This was a carefully chosen, centuries-old collection of whetstones. They ranged from grainy and coarse, capable of stripping layers of metal with brutal efficiency, all the way to stones so smooth they seemed polished by eternity itself, able to bring a blade to a vicious, razor-sharp glint. Beside them stood miniature vials of dark, viscous oil, emitting a faint, almost imperceptible but pungent aroma of herbs and resin. And then there were stacks of soft, worn, yet for an orc, impeccably clean leather, alongside coarse but thoroughly washed rags. In one corner of the table, near the dying wick of a single torch that cast flickering, dancing shadows on the rough cave walls, sat a clay bowl of clear, transparent water, its surface rippled by the reflections of that flickering flame. His gaze, piercing and intensely focused, swept over the massive two-handed axe lying before him. It exuded an air of ancient, weary, yet undeniably deadly power. This axe, you see, wasn't merely a weapon. It was a living part of him, an extension of his very being, a chronicle of his history, a silent witness to countless bloody battles, a keeper of his spirit and his unyielding, malevolent will. The blade's metal, which once gleamed with an immaculate yet terrifying sheen, was now dulled by ingrained dirt, dried stains of unknown origin, and in some places, even faint traces of rust creeping towards the edges. Here and there, small but characteristic nicks were visible, telling tales of forgotten struggles. Elsewhere, long, shallow scratches served as silent memories of failed parries or glancing blows. But not a single speck, not a single chip, not even the tiniest defect escaped his attentive, almost X-ray vision. He didn't see flaws in them. He saw history, scars that needed to be tended to, honored. First, he turned his unwavering attention to the handle. Now, this might seem secondary, right? But the handle, my friends, is your only vital connection to the blade. If it fails at a critical moment, then the entire tool, no matter how sharp, becomes utterly useless. Gently, almost as if he were caressing a living creature, he checked each wrap, every tight stitch on the thick leather grip. His massive, yet surprisingly nimble fingers glided over the roughly worked surface, testing the tension, searching for the slightest loosening or any hint of wear. The leather creaked almost imperceptibly as he firmly pulled on one of the straps, ensuring it sat as securely as it had on the very day it was made. Then, taking a small brush with stiff but non-abrasive bristles, he began methodically, with the persistence of a seasoned digger, to clean the accumulated grime from the indentations and from beneath the wrapping. Dry, clumpy debris, mixed with fine grains of sand, dried earth, and shedding fabric fibers, fell onto the table, forming small, dark piles. His movements were slow, measured, almost as if he wasn't just cleaning a handle, but performing an ancient, sacred rite known only to him and his distant, brutal ancestors. Every cleaned groove, every removed impurity brought the axe just that much closer to its primal, operational purity. Next, it was the blade's turn. Massive, wide, with a clearly defined working edge. First, he took a coarse rag, soaked it thoroughly in water, and began meticulously, layer by layer, to wipe away the heavy grime. Dried clay, ingrained blood, remnants of flesh, or even stubborn clothing fibers, all of it gradually disappeared, slowly revealing the cold, gray metal beneath. A long, monotonous scrape of wet fabric against steel filled the quiet cave, repeating again and again, creating a peculiar, almost primal melody of pure labor. He worked excruciatingly slowly, scrupulously, not missing a single square millimeter of the surface. He paid particular attention to the areas near the handle, in the ricasso, which were usually the most difficult to reach due to their complex contours. Then he took another, much softer cloth, one that had previously only been used for delicate polishing, wet it with a special cleaning solution, proprietary to his clan, of course, passed down through generations, and continued the cleaning. Now, his movements became more delicate. The cloth glided smoothly over the surface, collecting the finest dust, greasy fingerprints, and the last remnants of oxidation. The scent of metal, now mingled with the acrid but oddly pleasant aroma of the cleaner, filled the air, a constant reminder of the harsh realities of orc life, where weapon cleanliness isn't some whimsical luxury, but a matter of sheer survival. When the blade was completely free of all visible and invisible impurities, when it had regained its dull but impeccably clean metallic hue, it was time for the most crucial step, sharpening. This was the true apex of the ritual, a moment of supreme, absolute concentration. He carefully picked up the coarsest whetstone, massive, black, with a characteristically rough surface, having pre-soaked it in the bowl of water until it was ready. The stone, heavy and fitting perfectly into his calloused palm, felt like an extension of his very will. He pressed the axe's wide blade against the stone, holding it at a precisely calculated angle that seemed etched not only in his memory, but in every cell of his being, a secret passed down through hundreds of years of warrior practice. And then began that very sound, meditative and almost hypnotic in its repetition. A low, drawn-out, almost guttural scrape, a deep shh-krr, echoed through the cave as steel met abrasive. Every single movement was calibrated to the millimeter, each one executed with consistent, unchanging pressure at the exact same, steady speed. Forward and back, back and forward. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of repetitions. There was no room for haste, no room for nervousness, no room for fatigue. Only absolute concentration, total focus on the process, only the fierce, burning desire to achieve bloody perfection. Water flowed off the stone's surface, mixing with the resulting gray suspension. Microparticles of metal shed from the blade by the stone, and simultaneously, tiny particles of the stone itself, flaking off under the immense pressure. This thick, milky slurry played a crucial role in the sharpening process, ensuring smoother gliding and preventing the metal from overheating, which could lead to tempering loss and a reduction in hardness. Periodically, he paused to meticulously check his progress, Carefully, with the tip of his index finger, he ran it along the blade's edge, feeling a barely perceptible but very important burr, the thinnest metallic sliver that formed on the opposite side from where he was sharpening. This, he knew, was an unmistakable sign that the metal was being removed correctly, and a new, sharp cutting edge was truly forming. Then, with practiced ease, he flipped the blade and began sharpening the other side, working with the same diligence until the burr appeared on the opposite side, completing the first, coarsest stage of edge formation. Once the main, coarse work was complete, he moved to finer grit stones. First the medium, then the absolute finest. The entire process was repeated with the same methodical diligence, careful soaking of the stone, the precisely calculated angle, the same measured, rhythmic movements. But the sound? Oh, the sound changed with each new stone. It became higher, cleaner, no longer a rough scrape, but more of a gentle, whining sound, like the whisper of wind caressing a keen blade. Shh, the blade sang, gradually becoming sharper and sharper with every passing moment. With each subsequent finer stone, the sound became thinner, more delicate, and the movements lighter, almost caressing, removing only microscopic particles of metal. This was a true dance of precision and control, where the slightest deviation, the slightest tremor in his hand, could spoil hours of painstaking work. His eyes were fixed on the exact point of contact between metal and stone. His brain analyzed every sound, every subtle sensation, every tiny vibration transmitted from the blade to his hands. When he finally finished with the last, finest grit stone, the axe blade shone not with an aggressive, but a deep, dull, yet impeccably clean luster. The keen edge was now virtually invisible, blending seamlessly with the blade's body, a testament to its perfection. He took a piece of thin, carefully prepared leather, a strop, onto which a small amount of special polishing compound, greenish in hue, with the finest abrasive particles, had been applied. And here, the magic of sharpening reached its true culmination. With gentle, long, confident strokes, he drew the blade across the strop, alternating sides, achieving a perfect, mirror-like polish. This was no longer a scrape or a whine, but a soft, almost silken glide, accompanied by a barely audible shh, whiz. This sound, signifying that the blade's edge was being brought to truly razor sharpness, was pure music to his ears. This final, delicate process removed the tiniest, invisible imperfections, polishing the metal surface to absolute, terrifying perfection. To test the sharpness, he didn't bother with primitive tests like cutting paper. No. Instead, he carefully, almost reverently, touched the blade's edge with his fingertip, feeling it literally stick to his skin, hinting at its lethal keenness, not sliding, but gripping the micro-texture of his flesh. Then he took a few hairs, perhaps from his own head or his tangled, coarse beard, and carefully laid them on the blade's edge. The hairs, barely touching the perfectly honed edge, instantly, effortlessly, severed under their own negligible weight, scattering across the table like dust. This was the ideal state. A sharpness capable of cutting not just a thread, but the very fabric of space-time itself. A sharpness every warrior, in every realm, aspires to. A deep, incomparable satisfaction filled him to his very core. Now, with the blade lethally sharp, it was time to protect it from the corrosive effects of the harsh environment. He took a small, soft cloth, clean and perfectly dry, and poured a few drops of special weapon oil onto it, an oil derived from rare herbs and the rendered fat of a particular beast. This oil not only provided reliable protection against corrosion, but also, according to his clan's ancient beliefs, nourished the metal itself, preserving its elasticity and strength at a molecular level. Again, the same slow, methodical movements. He evenly, meticulously, without haste, spread the oil across the entire blade surface, from the very tip to the heavy spine. Every inch of metal had to be covered with the thinnest, barely perceptible layer, which gave the blade a deep, wet sheen. The prolonged, almost soundless friction of the oiled cloth against the metal created a pleasant, calming sound, reminiscent of leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. The metal shimmered with new, deeper hues, reflecting the uneven torchlight, like a living creature awakened from a long, peaceful slumber. The last, but no less important stage, a thorough inspection of all other equipment. He carefully examined the axe head itself, ensuring it sat firmly, without the slightest play, on the haft. He checked any metal wedges driven into the wood, making sure they hadn't loosened even a fraction. Then he moved to the straps and fastenings by which the axe was attached to his belt or back. Every buckle, every rivet, every loop was inspected for wear, for abrasions, or any hidden damage. His massive fingers probed the thick leather, checking its flexibility, the absence of cracks or tears that could lead to catastrophic failure at the most inopportune moment. Everything had to be absolutely flawless. For in the heat of furious battle, when adrenaline clouds the mind and survival is all that matters, there wouldn't be a second for inspection, or, much less, for repair. Every single detail, from the blade's lethal tip to the last stitch on the scabbard, had to be ready for the harshest test, to be absolutely, unimpeachably reliable. Finally, hours of painstaking work were complete. The axe lay before him, not just a weapon, but a true work of bloody art, the embodiment of his years of labor, boundless patience, and deep, abiding respect. The blade gleamed with a dull, yet lively luster. The handle was clean, sturdy, and reliable, and every piece of equipment checked, polished, and fully ready for service. He slowly lifted the axe, feeling its familiar, yet now even more perfected weight, sensing the ideal balance that allowed him to be truly one with the weapon. He made a few tentative, slow swings in the air, listening as the air parted by the metal quietly whistled near his face, creating a gentle, cool breeze. It was the sound of absolute readiness, the sound of unwavering confidence, the sound of peaceful anticipation for a new skirmish. You see, methodical, almost ritualistic weapon care is far more than just a mundane duty. It's a deep meditation, a sacred rite that, for centuries, connects a warrior with his tool, with his craft, with its invisible yet palpable spirit. It is that precious time when one can truly calm a raging mind, focus on the tiniest, barely perceptible details, and thoroughly prepare oneself and one's invaluable equipment for any, even the most unpredictable challenges that may lie ahead. It's a profound manifestation of the deepest respect for the tool that is your shield, your sword, your very life. And that respect, without a shadow of a doubt, always returns in spades when you least expect it. So, may your blade always be lethally sharp, and may your spirit forever remain utterly unyielding. If you enjoyed this journey into the brutal dedication of the Orc warrior, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment below to learn even more about such fascinating intricacies. Have you ever truly stopped to consider what patience actually means? I'm not talking about that fleeting kind you need on a busy city street or the brief pause before a meeting starts. No, I mean a patience that's been absolutely forged in an abyss, in absolute, suffocating isolation, in an endless, consuming darkness. Just imagine a place where every single tick of a clock feels like an eternity, where catching one solitary fish isn't just about getting a meal, but about the very extension of an agonizing, yet in some strange way, deeply desired existence. This profound, almost spiritual kind of patience is the absolute bedrock of one of Middle-earth's most recognizable and honestly most pitiable creatures, Gollum, who, way back when, was known as Smeagol of the Riverfolk. Now, we're all pretty familiar with the Gollum we usually see, right? The mad, agitated wretch, utterly consumed by his precious, writhing and hissing in the unbearable light of day. But there's this whole other facet to him, one almost entirely hidden from the world's gaze, known only to himself and the grim, unyielding walls of his thousand-year sanctuary. This is the side of an ancient hunter, a master survivor, a creature that's been honed by silent millennia, capable of thriving in conditions where literally no one else, not even the bravest elf or the strongest dwarf, could endure a single day without their mind just shattering. Today, we're actually going to descend into his world, deep into the gloomy depths of an underground lake, a realm where light never, ever dares to penetrate, and the only guides you have are the whisper of an echo and the very faintest tendrils of scent. This is where Gollum performs his most vital, his most primal, and in a truly twisted way, his most meditative ritual, fishing. So, welcome to Gollum's silent hunt. Picture this place for a moment. No sunbeam has ever pierced its thick, encompassing blackness. Here, for countless ages, the very air, the temperature itself, it's just stayed unchanging, absolutely immutable. Time, in this realm, seems to adhere to its own strange, unyielding laws, marked solely by the steady, relentless drip of water and the barely perceptible shifts within the infinite dark. The air itself? Oh, it's damp, heavy, just saturated with the faint, peculiar tang of ancient mold, raw stone, wet algae, and honestly, something just profoundly, inexplicably old. Far, far below, nestled deep within the very bowels of the misty mountains, in depth so profound that even the oldest maps remain completely silent, stretches this vast, hidden underground lake. Its waters lie utterly motionless, blacker than pitch, their surface only occasionally disturbed by the softest ripple, perhaps caused by a solitary drop falling from a stalactite, or the slow, almost imperceptible movement of some unseen deep dweller. There's absolutely no breath of wind here, no sound from the world above, none of that birdsong, no rustle of leaves, no fresh scent of rain, only the low, guttural hum of the cave itself, a whisper that seems to penetrate one's very bones, and the rhythmic breathing of the earth, as if a sleeping titan lazily inhales and exhales. This, for Gollum, is home. It's his refuge, his prison, his curse, and his solitary provider in this boundless gloom. And Gollum? He draws near the lake's edge. But here's the surprising thing. His movements aren't those jerky, spastic twitches we've come to expect. No, there's this strange, almost serpentine fluidity to his approach. His hunched figure, clad only in pitiful, ragged remnants of cloth, just glides slowly, almost silently, over the slick, wet stones. stones polished smooth by millions of years of dripping water, and his own ceaseless wanderings. His long, sinewy fingers, tipped with those sharp, broken claw-like nails, test the rough surfaces, exploring every small protrusion, every tiny crevice, every damp crack, before trusting his weight upon it. He feels his way, following a path his broad, flat feet have long since committed to memory. He knows this cave as intimately as he knows his own twisted, yet not entirely broken soul. Every outcrop, every narrow passage, every cold draft, every trickling source of water, all of it forms a living, breathing map, etched deep into his very being. His eyes, huge and pale, they once actually saw the light of the sun, but now they're perfectly adapted to this absolute, unending darkness. They perceive not by light, but by shadow, by subtle outlines, by the faintest fluctuation in the air itself. He doesn't rush. Haste is a luxury he simply cannot afford in this world, where one tiny misstep could mean crippling hunger, and hunger in this isolated realm. Well, that means a slow, agonizing demise. Every single action he takes is precise, meticulously honed by thousands upon thousands of hours of solitude, by thousands of failed attempts that only sharpened his already incredibly keen instincts. You see, survival here isn't just a basic need. It is a brutal art form, and Gollum is its undisputed master. He settles at the water's edge, right where the rock forms a small natural ledge. This is his preferred spot, proven reliable by eons and countless fishing expeditions. Here, the depth allows the fish to come close enough, while Gollum himself can remain utterly unnoticed, blending seamlessly with the deep shadows of the rock face. He crouches low, pressing his emaciated body against the cold, damp stone. And there's this faint, peculiar scent emanating from him, a really complex blend of mustiness, pervasive dampness, mold, and something profoundly animalistic, wild, and primal. Honestly, it's the smell of a creature that has truly left every last shred of its human essence behind. The period of waiting begins. This isn't merely a pause. For Gollum, it's a deep, involuntary meditation, a total descent into absolute external stillness, even as the intricate work of his mind and senses continues ceaselessly within. He extends one hand over the water, his fingers lightly, almost imperceptibly, caressing the surface, barely disturbing its mirror-like smoothness. He uses no rod, no net, no artificial tools. His instruments are his extraordinarily sensitive fingers, his acute sense of smell, his almost absolute hearing, and his supernatural, ingrained knowledge of this grim, bottomless body of water and its elusive inhabitants. He simply becomes one with his environment, a predator dissolving into his surroundings, an organic part of the cave itself. The only sounds that dare to disturb this profound silence are the relentless drops of water falling from somewhere in the invisible heights, from the unimaginable, colossal ceiling of the cave. Each drop feels like a tear shed by ancient, weeping mountains, you know? They just fall, rhythmically, constantly, like some ancient metronome marking the very heartbeat of the cave, so slow, so utterly relentless. They echo through the vast, black expanse, amplifying and fading, distorting and reappearing, creating this strange, hypnotic symphony, completely monotonous to an outsider, yet absolutely brimming with hidden meaning for Gollum. He doesn't just hear the drops. He listens to the echo itself, catching the slightest air movements, the most minute vibrations in the water, every insignificant ripple caused by the smallest change. For him, This isn't just sound. It's a complex symphony of information. His large, pale gaze, perfectly adapted to the perpetual darkness, remains fixed on the water, specifically on that one spot where his finger brushes the surface. He doesn't blink. His eyelids seem almost fused shut. His body barely moves. Only his chest rises and falls almost imperceptibly with each shallow breath, careful not to create any extraneous noise at all. Can you even begin to imagine the sheer, raw endurance it takes to sit like that for hours, utterly motionless, in complete, absolute pitch-black darkness, clinging to nothing but the faintest hope for a barely perceptible sign of life? For Gollum, this isn't a burden. It's a grim necessity, transformed over centuries into a sacred, albeit terrible, ritual. It is his singular connection to the world, his desperate way of feeling alive, his constant confirmation of his own existence within this cheerless void that has become his entire universe. What exactly does occupy his mind during these long, agonizing hours, you might wonder? Well, thoughts of the ring, of course, of my precious. Believe me, those thoughts never truly abandon him. Memories of it, like a thin but unbreakable thread, bind him inexorably to the past, to the world of light he both lost and now despises, yet still worships as the very source of his curse. But right here, right now, this all-consuming obsession recedes, if only for a moment, yielding to a far more pressing, more acute, more primitive need. Hunger. Hunger is a powerful teacher, ruthless, but undeniably effective, and Gollum has learned its lessons better than anyone. He understands its immense strength, its gnawing constancy, its relentless persistence, its absolute and undeniable power over him. His hand, still extended over the water, begins to tremble, slowly, almost imperceptibly. It's not from the cold, nor from fatigue, but from a barely suppressed, intense excitement. He carefully lowers one finger, then a second, into the water, and then begins to move them with extreme caution. A soft splash, almost inaudible, barely capable of disturbing the water's surface, yet it creates faint, concentric ripples that spread outwards. This isn't an aggressive movement. It's an invitation, a subtle, highly skilled lure. He knows that these waters are home to a very particular kind of fish, pale, almost transparent, as if sculpted directly from the darkness itself. Yet, they are incredibly sensitive to vibrations, to the slightest fluctuations in water pressure. They navigate and orient themselves primarily by sound, by echolocation, and by tactile sensations. He begins to slowly, almost hypnotically, rock his finger, then his entire palm, creating barely perceptible but constant ripples that expand in perfect circles across the still surface. This, you see, is his bait. Not a worm, not an insect, as a surface fisherman might use, but a masterful manipulation of the environment itself, an imitation of life designed to attract attention. He mimics the movement of a small creature that might have fallen from the ceiling, or perhaps a tiny swimmer passing by, or even one that has died and is slowly sinking. Every single gesture is meticulously planned, honed to absolute perfection, refined over hundreds and hundreds of years of solitary practice. He doesn't just fish. He performs an ancient primal dance with his unseen prey, a timeless dance of survival that he has perfected over centuries of lonely, desperate existence. If you found this deep dive into Gollum's truly hidden world as fascinating as I did, then please take a moment to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and definitely don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the rich lore of Middle-earth.